how am I here? They're talking about things that I've never heard ever in my life. I think their role was on analysis. They were doing data analysis or something for a different team. But I've never felt that dumb ever in my life. And I do think that I'm like I have average intelligence. That day, I felt like Penny.
I think you're above average intelligence, mate. But yeah, maybe like compared to those people, you probably feel like it's below average.
Not compared to those people, because I felt like Penny. That's how I described my first day. I felt like.
Well, what's that saying? Like if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
We're all part of this whole money game. This whole.
Welcome back to another episode of Beers and Business. I'm Abe Dearmer, CEO of Appsembler.
I'm Andrew Martin, CEO of Teamgate CRM, and the bullying has already started early for episode 21.
Before we even started recording, Sriya couldn't help herself. Bringing up your five head, mate.
It's not very nice, but
welcome to the podcast, Sriya. Here we go. Special guest for today, Sriya, the CEO of UXPin. She formerly worked at Facebook, which is pretty impressive, and we'll talk a bit about that for the listeners so you can get an idea of what that's like and to give a bit of an introduction to the inner workings of the Zuck. And also she ran our optimization team at Xenon. So some great insights today on website optimization, what works, how to get there, and everything else about website optimization. So welcome, Sriya.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Happy to be here.
All right. So let's crack into it. And the first thing we're going to do is crack into these beers. So today I've got the Zigzag Brewery, which is in Lithgow, which is just up the road from Bathurst. And I've got their Steam Pale Ale. This beautifully crafted pale ale is in recognition of the Lithgow Zigzag Steam Railway. Opened in the 1860s and still running today. That's true. You can buy a ticket, have a good time. With a golden to amber colour and multi-flavoured flavour, and welcome you to climb all aboard and enjoy our beer. It's 1.5 standard drinks, so definitely jumping all aboard on this bad boy. What do you got today, Andrew? Another repeat, mate?
No repeats. I didn't go.
You got a VB this time?
Yeah, I didn't go anything fancy. Well, I did go kind of fancy.
I got a Stella.
James Squire's limited edition XPA. So I've had my eye on this for a while. And the reason I got it is I'm actually going camping this afternoon for the weekend with the family. So I needed to stock up on some other alcohol. So I didn't end up getting to a brewery. So I got these ones and I wanted to try them for a while. I know they're on MasterChef, but
were they?
A nice
Must
XPA.
Be good.
The XPA that I had from Your Mate's Brewery was probably my number one beer for the first 20 episodes. So I thought, why not try another XPA from another company? So this is the one I'll try today. Only one standard drink, so I can have a couple and still drive up to Noosa for our camping trip.
Just drink 6, mate. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I might.
What do you got today, Sriya?
I'm still on my coffee, but I'm going to probably pour out my Prosecco soon. So
just don't pour it out. Bottle. Yeah, don't pour it out, mate.
There you go. I don't really stock beer because I love beer, and if I have it in my fridge, it's going to go away pretty soon. So I'm just trying to be.
What
healthy.
Prosecco you got, mate? Is it a local one? It better not be from New Zealand.
Goon?
Squealing Pig Prosecco, whatever was cheap. I don't know.
Squealing Pig.
Not very picky. So yeah,
from the local pig farmers.
I've seen Squealing Pig before. They do a rosé. My wife has had that one many times. She's also a pretty easy person to buy for. She doesn't know the difference between a $3 bottle of wine or a $50 bottle of wine.
Really, there is no difference. It just depends on the label. Some people would disagree.
Depends on the person.
Didn't like the $9 bottle of wine from Aldi win like the best wine in the world?
It did.
Yeah. Exactly. You pay enough money, you can win anything. Just look at Andrew and Best Value CRM.
I pay nothing. Too cheap.
But it is true, like labeling Fowles Winery, which is down in Victoria, their bottles of wine can range from $20 to $50 a bottle, but they actually do a line of wine in Aldi, and it goes for like $3 a bottle. So you can buy something $17 off just because the label's changed and it's in Aldi because they need to move the stock. Same thing, they have different labels that they apply to things and sell it in different places.
Fowles Winery. It's been a while since I've been there. Good food, good feed. If you're down that way.
Good spot. How's the week been, Shreya? How's it been?
It's been pretty standard. I wouldn't say uneventful, but like we're just trying to get through some leads that I've come across and trying to just get through follow-ups. So that's been my main goal for this week. The funnel's not great at the moment, but we're trying to do everything we can to get lead generation going. So yeah, just been busy.
Yeah, it's tough out there. It is tough out there for software companies.
With all the stupid updates that Google's been doing. Can I say that?
Oh, man. Yeah, absolutely you can. Absolutely you can. We're not sponsored by Google, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I wish we were.
Good time to go back and rewatch the SEO episode with Griffin with Google's most recent updates.
But that's an interesting point is that Google actually made a rare admission that they screwed up, that they had a bug with their rankings in search, which is really cool. I guess not cool, but it's cool that they actually admitted that they did something wrong for a change instead of just saying, we're releasing another update. Generally, when they release another update in like a week or under sort of that 2-month cadence, 3-month cadence,
it's fixing the previous.
It's because they screwed something up with the latest update. But this time, I think it was a bit more noticeable, so people were up in arms about it.
I don't think they fixed it though, because my trials fell and my traffic dropped.
It only got fixed like yesterday.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
So that means something will pick up.
So it's from like the 15th of August, I think, was the error.
Yeah, 15th of August was when.
And then it took them 4 or 5 days to fix it. And even then, yeah, people are saying that potentially it's not fixed, but I mean, it probably just takes a little while for the effects to come in anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, there's a bonus learning of the week for everyone out there.
There you go. Extra.
Google admitted they were wrong. But let's jump into our actual learning of the week. And Andrew, let's start with you.
Yeah, so mine is the devil is in the detail. Be curious, which we spoke about last week in the gap selling episode, but mine is more specific to a sales call I had this week where a CEO jumped on the call and just absolutely tried to bulldoze the call and push his way through and get a
See, this is
heavy,
what all my bullying does to you, Andrew. It actually helps resilience. You, gets you ready for these calls when the CEO jumps on and tries to bulldoze their way through the call. You're welcome.
Like, oh, you think you're an asshole, mate. You have no idea.
You haven't met one of my friends.
You haven't met Abe.
I'm first friends as a strep acquaintance.
So, yeah, I guess the devil's in the details. He came in pretty hot and ready to push things through. He tried to use a negotiation tactic, saying he was building his own software tool. So Teamgate would be a very temporary solution. That software tool is 12 to 18 months away, and basically try to push us all the way through and get a very, very big discount. As we went through the sales call, we discovered some more details that essentially they are scaling. Then they don't plan to scale. They have to scale just due to the contract that they recently won, and they're currently using a Google Sheet. So the biggest thing for them is speed and time to value. So they need a solution like yesterday, whereas his solution is 18 months away. So they're sort of stuck with buying a solution. And then, we've been able to turn his selling point or what he thought was his advantage back on him by saying, well, you've told me you're only using me for 12 months. Therefore,
I wouldn't give you a discount.
My time to get any sort of return on investment is actually reduced. So that discount is not going to be as significant as
usually people try the other tactic. Oh, this would be a long-term partnership, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, great, we'll sign a 3-year contract and we'll give you 20% off, paid up front. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah. But no, he went the opposite route.
That was an interesting call. We spent a lot of time preparing for that call, and just for it to sort of everything we prepared for kind of got thrown out the window, and we had to be really flexible and adapt and deal with that strong personality. But overall, did well, and we should close those guys out. They're large. They're scaling to 50 sales reps, just sales reps.
Wow.
So they just won a big contract with a US company where they're the sole contractors for implementation. So they have to scale 50 additional sales reps by the end of the year and 20 additional sales reps by the end of this month. So nice. Their clock is ticking. So hopefully we win that one, and we'll be up and running with them by the start of September.
Nice. That's good, mate. That's good. Well done. Fingers crossed that they sign the contract, and fingers crossed that just CRM never gets built. Yeah, sign the contract, big boy.
Yeah.
All right. I'll go on with mine, and then we'll finish up with Sriya. We'll give her a couple of rounds to get used to what we're doing here. But the one that I've got is building a skill set is boring and requires you complete often mundane tasks over and over again. I actually took a bit of inspiration from this from my son. So he does Muay Thai 3 nights a week. And you look at it and you're like, he does, like, it's tough. It's sometimes mundane. It's not the most fun thing. Like, it hurts at times, but it's doing those things over and over again. And he always wants to go. He's always really keen to be there. He even asked to do an extra night tonight to go. So to do, 4 nights a week. And it's like an hour and a half session. So it's not a short session, but training for an hour and a half. So at the beginning of the session, I join in with him. So it's 10 minutes of skipping, 50 push-ups and 50 sit-ups is the warm-up. So I do the skipping with him. And then I said to him, like, hey, if you beat me in the push-ups and sit-ups, I'll buy you a pack of Pokemon cards. And so now he's trying to challenge me to get through his push-ups and sit-ups. I'll give it to him. I actually was concerned he was going to beat me on the push-ups for the first time. He did, like, just distract me, and so he could start. I'm the cheeky bugger. But he doesn't know that, like, push-ups and sit-ups are my strength. Like, if he would, challenged me to a running race, he'd probably beat
cardio.
me. But, like, he's
Stick
just
to skipping.
he selected the wrong thing to challenge me at, but he's actually doing, like, he's getting really close. And, like, some of the challenges, he constantly, like, puts down the numbers about, all right, I've got 120 med ball sit-ups this time. I've got to get, I've got to beat that for the next time. And so I just sort of, made me start to think, and we don't think about it too much when we're passionate about something, because we just go through and we just complete the task, do the work, continue to work through things. And you think about people who get good at drawing, people who get good at music, people who get good at, any profession in life. It just takes you doing the reps, the mundane tasks over and over again. Similar to, like, when you do sales, it's about doing the film reviews, looking back on the calls, watching yourself get bulldozed by a CEO who wants a good deal, those sorts of things. It's tough to do and it takes time, but it's important to do it because you'll get the rewards in the end.
Are you going to start taking the lessons for yourself, mate? Because Sriya and I both know that your wife wears the pants in that household. So are you going to...
What do you want me to do
Some
there,
self-defense?
mate? What's the advice there? Self-defense.
Just some self-defense. You don't have to go on the offense, just defense.
Mate, DV isn't a joke, okay?
Jesus.
I'm also going to FaceTime your kids and just tell Weston to challenge you to skipping and cardio and running, just so he gets his Pokemon cards.
No, that wasn't the deal. I'm not going to make that deal. I'm not an idiot. All right, Sriya, what have you got for your learning of the week?
So I'm a huge believer in social media being a learning tool, and I follow all of these, like, random people that can add value to my life by a little bit. I follow
Through memes, right?
I mean,
Us.
sure. Okay.
Business podcast. That's who you follow.
So there's this woman on Instagram, and she's quit her job, and she's like a full-time influencer right now. And she's in the Silicon Valley. What she's done is she's gone and talked to, like, a lot of CEOs in the Silicon Valley to just understand what do they do to set themselves apart and how do they accomplish what they accomplish. And there's this series of, here's 7 days of learnings from these CEOs. And one of the things that she said really resonated with me, and I'm trying to stick to that. It's basically, how we all have to-do lists? You probably have 10, 15 things on a to-do list that you have to get through in a day. I don't know about you guys, but I've never, ever, ever finished my to-do list in a day. And it's just disheartening at the end of the day when you see things that you haven't accomplished.
Or it gets longer.
Yeah.
Mine gets longer. Mine becomes a priorities list.
Yep. And as much as you try to prioritize, it never works for me. And her advice was, what one of the CEOs did was he just set one goal for the day, one major goal. If you accomplish this one major goal for that day, you would feel fulfilled. So yes, you have 15 other things to do, but if you do that one major priority thing, you would feel like you've had a good day and a productive day. And that's really important to me. Like, I need to feel productive every day. And if I don't, it just, like, is extremely disheartening. So I've been doing that. I just set one priority. My priority for today is to reach out to 20 leads and do my follow-ups. If I get that done, I know that I've done a good job today. So that's me patting myself in the back. There's no one else to do it. That was my learning. And I've tried to implement that the past few weeks.
Yeah, nice. That's cool.
I'm similar, and I think I don't know if I'm a little bit ADHD. I've never been diagnosed, but I'm a person like a
Same.
butterfly flies past, and I'm like, oh,
Yep.
and I'm distracted. So, Abe, you actually taught me this a little while ago. Was like a daily focus. So previously, it was like I had all my whatever meetings throughout the day, and then I would just fill in the gaps with I can fit a blog here, I can do this there, and then I got to a point where I was like, I feel like I'm not getting enough done, and yeah, hate to give Abe credit, but it was putting in a
Seems
daily
to be a
focus.
common theme here, though.
So on Tuesdays was marketing, so that's when I do my blogging, I do my keyword research, I'd look at our SEO, I'd look at any hypothesis tests we could do. Wednesdays was sales, so that's when my Calendly would be open to let people book demos with me. That's when I do outreach on LinkedIn or to trials and things like that. Thursday might be dev, where you're doing your testing and things like that. So daily focus is a really good one as well, whether it's a one goal for the day or just an overall. If you can break your job role into sales, marketing, things like that, where it's categorized, that's a good way to do it as well.
I tried doing that. I had like separate days for separate functions. I just kept getting bulldozed by different things, like things breaking, and I would have to shift focus, and it just used to, so I stopped doing
it. Takes so much self-control to do it like that. It's really hard because you feel like you're not executing the priority of the moment, but you have to sort of switch and think of the bigger picture. And that's the problem, is like forest of the trees type stuff. Because what that actually is aiming to do is every time you switch tasks or switch priorities, it actually takes a level of brain power. And so you get task switching fatigue that comes with it. So if you're just focused on marketing for the day, your mind's in that state, and it allows you to perform better at that one thing instead of switching between marketing and sales, because you almost have like a different personality that you apply to each of those different things, right? Like there's a reason that marketing people are marketing people, salespeople are salespeople, devs are devs. Like they have different personalities and different ways that they think. And so when you put yourself in that persona of, all right, I'm doing marketing, I need to think like a marketing person. If you then try to switch to sales, to dev, then back to marketing, it's going to fatigue you much more.
I think a big thing that throws me is as soon as I log on in the morning, I'll have 1,000 emails and I'll go through them. And then, there's always priorities that come up in that. I think do you do the opposite, Abe? Do you do your email cleanup at the end of the day?
Yeah, I like to, in the morning I do a skim and I just see like, is there anything that I need to answer immediately? And then I do my email cleanup at the end of the day where I'll go through, and then that allows me to then look at what I prioritize for the next day. Because that also helps you switch off from work at the end of the day by creating a to-do list or your one goal for the next day, as Sriya has adopted. So you set your one goal for the next day, you set it that afternoon. So that way in the afternoon or at night when you're trying to go to sleep, you're not thinking about like, oh shit, I've got to do that tomorrow. Because you've already thought about it and you've written it down and you had a conscious effort to, this is what I'm doing tomorrow.
I hate email, so I always put it off to the end of the day. I've never been a fan. And with my previous experience in tech, it was always real-time communication that I felt was much more impactful and that actually got the ball rolling. So my team knows that if they need something from me, they will never send me an email. They will just reach out on Slack because I will respond to Slack.
It's never your team that emails you.
Yeah, I know.
Always some pesky customer that wants something from you, right?
I have a filter that says important and VIP. So if I do get like a VIP notification, then I do look at it. But other emails, they're like...
Your inbox must be just horrific. I couldn't stand it. I saw someone posted the other day that they made like 20,000 unread emails notification on their phone. I'm like, I would just throw that phone in the bin and start again. Like I'd get rid of my email. I couldn't handle it. I'm one of those people that if I see a notification, I have to look at it. That's why I
for me.
I can't have notifications on any like social media or anything like that, because LinkedIn's the worst. They'd be like, it's not even stuff that's related to you. It's like
crap.
Yeah, so-and-so shared
someone else posted.
Thanks.
Yeah. I hate seeing those in everything except email. So I can't have like that, the one ticker or the two ticker. Like it just like drives me nuts. So my Slack is always like notification free and all the other apps, but the email inbox is like at the end on my phone. So I never really go to it.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Oh, it gives me anxiety just thinking about it. All right, let's end that topic there.
Yeah.
So let's go to the quote of the week. So I'll start with my quote of the week. So I actually got recommended this book by Chris at Way Equity, a really interesting book that I started to read. And it's all about essentially how venture capital has ruined so many things and some of the intricacies that come with it. But this quote here is, in venture, the median investment was a failure, which I think is really funny. So, Sebastian Mallaby is the writer, and it's called The Power Law of Venture Capital and the Art of Disruption. So for me, that's it's really telling about how they invest the capital and what the expectations are, is that it's almost it's worse than gambling a lot of the time, right? Because at least in gambling, there's better odds and probably a better chance of getting a win on the board, right? But I just think, it's really funny that, in venture, the median investment was a failure. So that sort of stuck out for me as a key part of the book.
Nice. Very business-minded quote. To switch it up, I've got one from the one and only
Andrew's
Mike
in
Tyson.
weekend mode already.
Yes. I just want to go camping. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So obviously I kind of got punched in the mouth this week with the sales call. It's just a reminder to remain flexible. Chase was on that call with me, my head of sales. We got off the call and he was like, man, I'm glad you were on that call. I need a beer. Like that was intense. But just remain flexible, adapt, overcome, and deal with the people you got to deal with.
And I actually find that was an Australian company, right?
No, they were US.
They were US, yeah. I was going to say Australians are really hard to deal with on sales calls sometimes.
Really?
The ones I've had are pretty cruisy. I had a sales call this week with an Aussie, and Chase just got off one about an hour ago with another Aussie. So they've been pretty good with Teamgate. I think it just depends who you get, where you're dealing with. If they're from Dubbo,
please,
Dubbo Bathurst.
All right, sure. Anywhere I'm from, apparently.
Yeah,
move to the Sunshine Coast, say the same thing.
Chill.
All right, Sriya, what do you got?
I'm going to break the norm and say that I have two quotes. The first.
Don't worry, I do that all the time.
It's a double entry fee.
The first one is a Harry Potter quote, and it would be criminal if I didn't bring this up. It's one of my favorite things, and I have it written down everywhere. Happiness can be found in the darkest of times, if only one remembers to turn on the light. And Albus Dumbledore said it. It's the most beautiful thing that you can think of when you're not feeling the best. So yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes. There's another one which I keep.
If anyone who doesn't know, Sriya is like
a Harry Potter nerd.
Yes.
Geek or nerd? I don't know.
The biggest Harry Potter fan there is. Books, not movies.
Someone will comment on this being like, no,
we call you. What are the Harry Potter fans called?
Potter tattoo.
There's two things that Shreya loves.
So I'm trying to show you muscles,
flexing.
You loser.
Oh, yeah.
Flexing on camera. Let me conveniently show you my tattoo that's on my bicep.
Yeah.
Do we see these baby 20-inch pythons?
Taylor Swift fans are Swifties. Are you guys potheads? What do we call Harry Potter fans?
Potterheads. Not
Potterheads.
That's a different kind of.
That's a different Harry Potter fan.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What's your second quote, Shreya? We'll stop hanging shit on you for flexing and liking Harry Potter.
My second quote is, if you only do the things that you can't do, you'll never be anything more than you are. And it's something that I constantly tell myself because there's so many things in this job that I don't really like doing, but I have to do them to be able to do better and to do more. So yeah, that's really stuck with me. And
growth, be a student.
Yeah, growth mindset.
Challenge yourself.
Always 1% better every day. All of those things.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I think that we talked about it on the last, and this seems to be a common theme that people bring up, going back to being a student and going back to learning. And I think that one of the key bits that, I don't know, people like to say that they're, forever a learner, but then you talk to them and you're like, you completely just discounted the learning that I tried to give you there. You're not really a learner. You just say that you want to be a learner because you think it sounds good.
Yeah. Sounds inspirational.
But yeah. Like you'll read a book and be like, huh, idiot. The type of person who watches the Olympics and goes, look at that idiot. They just fell over doing a triple backflip on the beam, in gymnastics. Like, what an idiot. They must feel like a real fool. And it's like,
are you saying you're a fan of the breakdancing? So what are you trying to say?
Hey, if you can do better than Raygun at breakdancing,
I can
Andrew,
100% do better than Raygun.
okay, let's see it. I want to see it.
I'll show you on Mad Monday.
Down for us.
That's my outfit. That's my Mad Monday outfit. I'll be dressed as
Great. I
Raygun.
can't wait for the video.
I'll challenge her.
But you know what I mean? Like people who sit back on the couch and they're like, "Oh, I'm a forever learner," but oh, look at that idiot! I would never have done that. It's like, you probably would have.
Yeah, and I think speaking of learnings, I think we've discounted a learning again, Abe. We haven't really defined what we're going to be talking about today and why Sriya's expertise is required.
Didn't I say that at the start? Which is like optimization.
No, maybe not really. You spoke about our background. That was about it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
What are we talking about today?
We're going to be talking about website design, optimization, how you can... Because the thing is that Sriya, with her optimization, it wasn't just website design. It was more like optimizing workflows, user experience. It was a full like suite of things. It wasn't just focused on like, oh, get someone to click here. It was what about onboarding flows? Those sorts of things as well, which was a really key part of that. So we're going to talk broadly about optimization, how to get the most out of the people that visit your page, site, app, things like that. Is that an app description, Sriya?
Yeah. Conversion rate optimization, basically, all across your funnel, starting from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, but now she's a CEO of UXPin. And do you want to give a quick plug to UXPin before we get started?
Sure.
28 minutes in, he says.
UXPin is a code-to-design prototyping tool. It basically reduces your handoff process between design and development. Anyone who's worked in a software team knows that there's like a cycle. There's a software development cycle, which starts from idea that gets translated into design by a designer. And then it goes to development and then gets tested and then gets pushed to production. And I'm talking about digital designs that go as like a website design or a prototype. So there's a whole process where it's like step by step by step, and it has to go through all of these approvals and checks to finally get to the end state. What usually happens is a designer designs something completely like a great design, but designers don't really understand the technical feasibility behind it. And then a developer takes that design and says, I can't fucking do this. Like, this is just not technically feasible. And then there's like friction. There's like, you have to change your design. And there's that handoff process is like really strenuous. I know this because
And then the project manager sits there and goes like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Can't you two just get along?
Yeah. So I've actually lived this role. My early years were, I started off as a QA engineer. So I would be the one testing
Good
this.
Good segue.
Yeah. I would be the one testing this and sending it back to the developer. I've literally had shouting matches with developers back when I worked at Dell. I worked at 24/7 AI. They just never got it. They just never got it looking the same as the design. What UXPin Merge does is you use code as your source of truth. So essentially what you're designing is already coded and it looks exactly the same. There's parity between design and development, and also you're reducing that time, that friction, those fights and squabbles between these teams, and just like bringing harmony to the design and development process. And you're 10 times more productive. You can scale your team much more efficient. And yeah, we believe in productivity over pixels. And
I like that.
Yeah, we truly believe that if you use Merge for your normal workflows, you reduce your headcount on just development resources. You can have your designers go in and just do things that are going to take much lesser time. And UXPin actually allows people like me to design. I know that I run a design company, but I can't freaking draw stick figures if it could save my life.
We know.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think I tried to do like workflow and stuff.
Yeah.
Event, and
you drew me a picture in Korea when we were in Korea for.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yes,
But UXPin enables that creativity.
I suck at designing myself, but I can actually go in. And design things, which is mind blowing for me because I could never do that before.
Because it's like drag and drop components, right? That you can use.
You can use open source libraries. They're already there. All you have to do is just drag and drop, and then you get production ready code. And it's not like Figma dev mode where you get shitty code. It's actual usable code that you get. So yeah, that's UX pin in a nutshell.
Sweet. It's probably like in a coconut shell. Bit bigger than a nutshell. But it's good. Thank you for that. That's a good background of UX pin and what you're doing now. But let's rewind a little bit, because I think you've got, really interesting journey and had some really interesting jobs, and, your journey, through the US and then to Australia, I think it's super interesting as someone who, grew up in Central West New South Wales and then joined the army, moved around a few places in Australia, then moved back to Central West New South Wales. I feel like your story is a bit of an anomaly to me. Anyway, so probably to Andrew as well, because he pretty much did the same thing. Yeah, a bit more exciting. But yours or mine? Oh, Shreya's.
I moved from Brisbane to the Sunshine Coast, mate.
Oh, look at you. Amazing.
I'm moving up. I'm moving up in the world. I'm moving up in the world.
Literally. But let's start with I know you mentioned there a little bit about 24/7 AI and Dell, and you had some roles in there before heading over the States. But I mean, let's talk about some of your background.
So I studied computer applications, did a bachelor's and a master's in it, and got into software testing early in my career. Did that for about 5 years. So I worked at Dell, I worked at 24/7 AI. I realized that I just had a lot to say, and I didn't feel like...
I can agree with that, yeah.
I didn't feel like I had the best title to get those opinions heard, and I wanted to do something more and push changes myself. So I moved to the States, and I worked as a performance improvement project manager at Stanford Healthcare. I think everyone's aware of Stanford, the university. Stanford also has a huge hospital and a lot of clinics across the States. So I lived in the Silicon Valley. I worked in a bit more than a year. It was an amazing job because basically what I did was I used to help people see their doctors faster. If you live in the States, you know what the healthcare system is like. It's not great. And Stanford is notorious for wait times. So it would take you months to see a specialist. I had to wait 9 months to see a neurologist for my migraines. It's that bad. And by the time that I saw the neurologist, my migraines had gone. So yeah, stupid. But
and then you met Andrew and they came back.
True. Yeah. So I used to do that. I worked there for more than a year, but I realized that the technology that they used is so archaic. It's just, it's
like healthcare in a nutshell, right?
Yeah. The systems that they used, it just coming from like an AI company and like a very heavy tech background, it just blew my mind that people were still using this technology. And that's not something that I could change because that.
You know what? Stanford Health's probably using the same thing right now.
They use faxes.
Yeah.
And floppy disks.
Probably still are.
Yeah. And I just couldn't believe it that Stanford was using that. And I realized that that's not something that I can change. So that technology that they use is integrated across all of the hospitals in the US almost. They use something called Epic, and that's just never going to change. And I needed to be in the technology forefront and just be like in the space of innovation and like learn new things in terms of technology. And as any tech nerd, I think everyone's dreamed of working for a FANG company. FANG is Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, I think. It was always a goal, and I never thought I was good enough.
Did you get cool shirts made up with that acronym?
There probably are a lot of shirts, but no, I don't own one that says I was in a FANG company or whatever.
You have a Facebook shirt?
I do, multiple, but Facebook was like very.
So talk us through, how did you start? Like, did you just apply for a job? Did you know someone there? What was the process like?
A funny story, because Stanford sent me to this training. So I have a PMP, which is a project management professional certification. And to get that certification, you have to do a 1-week boot camp at a offsite location. And I went there from Stanford to go and learn about project management. And there were people from different companies. And when you introduce yourself, you'd say where you're from. And there were 2 people from Facebook. And I was like, oh my God, wow, people from Facebook are coming here. And doing this too. It took me until like I was like, should I go talk to this person? Should I, say something? I really want to work there.
I just imagine this being like like a Sheldon Cooper style moment of introduction where you're like awkwardly just standing around them until
I
you
do
walk
have
up
a
and have
Sheldon
to.
Cooper moment. I do, but that's like later in the story. This guy was also a project manager at Facebook. And yeah, at the end of the boot camp, I just like mustered up the courage to go say that, hey, I love what Facebook does. I really want to work for it someday. Do you know of any roles that would be suited for project management and stuff? And he was like, I'll just send you a referral link and you can apply yourself. And I used his referral link and I applied for 3 jobs, got called for 2 of them, interviewed. It was probably the hardest interview that I've ever given in my life because it was 6 rounds. It was very strenuous and the nerves, yeah. It was insane. Like I felt like I had to use every brain cell to be able to think and answer in a way that would set me apart. And yeah, after 6 rounds, I got the call and they told me I was starting in a month. And that was it. So all I did was ask someone to just refer me. And if you really want a job, go find someone who works for that company. They would be happy to refer you because they get paid. This person got paid like, I don't know how many thousands of dollars or whatever, but like, yeah, you get paid if you refer someone and they get the job and they stick to that job for like 3 to 6 months or something. There's a period. So yeah, it's a win-win for them. And there's no cap on how many referrals that you can make, or yeah, it's not, especially in bigger companies. So yeah,
I'd say you
nice.
did more than just ask someone, Sriya. You still got through 6 rounds. He got your foot in the door, but you still got through 6 rounds of interviews, which
But also,
I assume there would have been some other people.
I think it's a good lesson as well for people who, and this is the real struggle that I see in Bathurst, in Dubbo. You probably see it, Andrew, in the Sunshine Coast, is that it's a lot of school people leave, intelligent people a lot of promise. They leave and they go to Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne, wherever, because of that simple fact that if you weren't in Silicon Valley, you never would have met that person. They never would have been able to give you a referral link. You never would have been able to have the opportunity to work at a company like Facebook. And so I think that when you look at that, it's like that's why the big cities have a massive draw, is because you get that opportunity to go and, meet people in those locations. Problem is, majority of the time, if you're living in Sydney and you just finish university, you probably don't have enough money to go and socialize in places. So it's like the dilemma that you have. I think it just highlights the fact that you got to put yourself in the right place at the right time to get those opportunities as well. Not discrediting anything about like the interview process would have been tough and everything you did there. But I think it's a good point of like, you got to go out and find the right people to introduce yourself to. And I think that's really important. Like networking events and things like that are super important.
And also just like I believe I've been an introvert up until I started my journey in the Silicon Valley. I would never, if this was like 2 or 3 years ago, I would never have just gone and spoken to anyone. I've come out of my shell a lot in the past few years. But for me that's why it took me to the end of the week to actually just go and ask this person a simple question. I was just like weighing it up in my head so much that I'm going to look like an idiot. What is he going to think of me? And blah, blah, blah. But yeah.
Is he going to laugh at me? I want to jump a face. Good luck, loser.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Now I'm just like, yeah, I don't care. I'm going to ask.
Yeah. But when you went through the hiring process, 6 rounds of interviews, did they tell you like how many rounds of interviews there were at the start, like what the process would be?
So there's a briefing call. The HR calls you and says that this team is interested in hiring, getting you through this process, and they walk you through everything. Their HRs are really good in just like walking you through what to expect and how to prep for it. They'll even give you pointers on like what to prep for and things like that. So yeah, that really helped, that starting call with the HR, and they tell you expectations from the role and things like that.
What about practical activities? Did you have to do any practical work?
So one of them was a case study. So they basically gave me, I think it was an Instagram case study. I don't really remember. This was like 2018. 2019, I think. They gave me like a case study and they gave me 3 questions. I had to read through it and I had to answer those questions effectively. I think there was data analysis was a part of it. There was some objective questions and how would you handle this problem? Yeah. Facebook's problem is that there's a lot of ambiguity because it's social media and you never know how people are going to react to things, and they need people to sort of come in and fix those ambiguous problems. So it's a very different, it's nothing that you will ever do before because you're solving weird problems at times. And because they've done so much of engineering work and built so much and not really thought about how processes would work, you would have to put in processes in that ambiguous space. So most of my role was just trying to figure out those problems. I do want to say that I can't really talk about specifics. I do have an NDA in place with them, so I can't really go into exactly what I did at Facebook, but I can.
Yeah, we don't want to get you sued,
Or
do we? So set up.
Sued.
No, but I think when you talk about that, like, it is super important, I guess, for everyone to understand is that if you feel like Sriya is being vague, it's because it's on purpose, because of that NDA that's in place, and we don't want to see anyone get in trouble and things like that. And from my understanding anyway, Shriya's only got good things to say about Facebook, but obviously there's things there that she can't talk about for obvious reasons. But you get into Facebook and you're there and you walk in day one.
My Sheldon
what the
Cooper
hell are you
moment.
thinking? It's a Sheldon Cooper moment, is it?
Yeah, I was Penny. So the first 2 days is orientation. They fly. So everyone who's hired and has a hiring date of that day gets flown in from all across the world to San Francisco. And the orientation was basically a whole big...
Does the Zuck greet you day one?
No, Zuck doesn't greet us day one. There's other leaders that do. So I think it was more than 100 people during my orientation, all flown in from like London, Australia, different parts of the world. And I was sitting, not even joking, literally sitting between two physics theorists that worked on string theory. And they were from, I think one of them was from Boston University or something.
Brains the size of the room type people.
And I was sitting in between them, and you know how you have onboarding buddies and you're supposed to do like activities during your orientation for them. I just felt like, what am I even doing here? How am I here? They're talking about things that I've never heard ever in my life. I think their role was on analysis. They were doing data analysis or something for a different team, but I've never felt that dumb ever in my life. And I do think that I'm like I have average intelligence. That day, I felt like Penny.
I think you're above average intelligence, mate. But yeah, maybe like compared to those people, you probably feel like it's below average.
Not compared to those people, because I felt like Penny. That's how I described my first day. I felt like.
What's that saying? Like if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
Well, that is a saying, but yeah.
Yeah, sure.
You got a good chance of being the smartest person in this room, Shriya. You're right.
I don't think so. Like, yeah, so that was my first day. You spend the first 2 days in orientation. They tell you to go across the campus and just explore. Do you want me to talk about the Facebook campus?
Yeah, sure. Tell us about it.
It's freaking brilliant.
Does Zuckerberg live there?
Sorry?
Does Zuckerberg live there? Is he like?
He doesn't live there, but
is there like a castle at the top of the hill?
Is he out the front just wrestling people when they come into work?
I don't know when this UFC thing came about, but like he wasn't that ripped when I was there. Like he used to walk around. I don't think
he's got a lot more money now. So.
He's a lot cooler now. Turns out money can buy cool.
And abs.
Yeah, with the gold chain. I've seen that photo. It's ridiculous. And him surfing with the flag and everything on the 4th of July.
That's American, that is.
Yeah. That's like
it's patriot.
Insane.
Yeah.
But
he's been hanging out with Dana White too long. That's all that is.
The Facebook campus, at least the Menlo Park one, is like, I think it's 65 buildings, all like interconnected. And that's just like one of the campuses. There's like five tram routes, like bus routes, like cars that can take you from one building to the other. Every restaurant that you could ever think of, every food kind of cuisine that
they never want you to leave, right?
Sorry? Yeah.
They never want you to leave.
they never want you to leave because everything's at your fingertips. I lived a very bougie lifestyle back in the valley. I never had to leave the campus because everything was just there. You had 8 different kinds of coffee on every floor. It was the best. Any food that you can ever think of. We had pastry chefs that would do different.
Sounds like Wellington, to be honest. It's probably the size of Wellington too.
I put on so much weight just eating my way through all of the restaurants. And you could bring your friends over for lunch and like everyone eats for free. Yeah, it was just insane. And they make sure that you're very comfortable so that you can do the work that they expect you to do and strive to be at a certain level.
What was your favorite thing on the Facebook campus?
My favorite thing on the Facebook campus was the roof on building 22, I believe. So they've actually made it a whole garden. They planted trees on the roof. So if you go up on building 22, you are basically walking through a park, and it's all like trees. And when you look outside, you see a highway next to you, but it's all like nature, and there's like a gazebo, and it's beautiful. I've never seen anything like that. Like that's just, I've been to the Google campus. Amazon campuses suck, but even Google could not replicate what they did. I haven't been to the Apple campus though. Like they're all pretty close together, but I believe that Facebook had the best food. I've been to the Google campus and ate their food, but yeah, nothing matched what we had. And I've had Googlers come to my office and say that this food is better. So
this free food that we get is way better than the free food we get at our campus.
Peasants.
Yeah. They make it like, they make you very comfortable. I never had to like, I didn't have to leave the office to even fill gas in my car. I could just use an app and get someone to come fill gas in my car. That's how much they want to take off of.
Time is money, baby. Time is money.
So you end up spending 12 to 14 hours in the office.
In the office working. Exactly. Smart.
Yep.
Yeah. Don't have to go refuel your car.
Got you good.
Yeah.
How was the Zuck though? Did you see the Zuck? How close did you get?
Well, you don't go up and talk to him. That would be like super weird. He would like walk around. So his office was pretty close to.
Doesn't he work in like a clear cube or something?
So there was like a transparent cube that he used to work out of in building 22, I think. But I think he moved his offices to a different building, like right next door. But he just like walks around and stuff. And we used to have, I think one of the best things about what he did was we used to have Thursday Q&As, and he would address, and it was like happy hour Q&A. So you basically take a drink and go into the auditorium and sit and ask him anything. And Zuck was there, and you could ask this man any question, and he would reply with a 20 to 30 minute long answer explaining to you every.
It's a good way to discourage people from asking questions.
Question would be answered, and you would feel like, what the fuck just happened? All I asked was like this simple thing, but I got so much more context. I think that he's like one of the most brilliant people ever. The amount of knowledge that is stored in his brain is like insane. And it's just inspiring to see that. And the fact that he took out Thursday evenings to like just address all the employees and listen to their concerns and just like answer anything is amazing. And when I was there, I think it was like 80,000 people that worked at Facebook.
Yeah.
This Q&A would be live streamed. It happened in San Francisco. It happened in Menlo Park, but it would be live streamed to like everyone across the world. And you could ask in questions from like the, thing chats. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. That's awesome. Like, that's really good as far as like being able to hear out
accessible.
Anyone's issues. Yeah. Like making yourself and sacrificing that time for someone as, I guess,
busy.
important as him.
Yeah.
To give up that time. We're pretty good. It'd be interested to know if they still do it as well. I imagine they would, but it'd be interesting to know if they still do it.
They actually live streamed one of the Q&As because someone leaked some answers the week before, and he was just like, I'm just going to live stream the next Q&A. And I'm pretty sure that was when I was there. And everyone at Facebook, everyone who used Facebook would have seen that live stream. It's really interesting.
He's like, I've got nothing to hide. Fine. Yeah. You want to leak it?
Do it.
Great.
Yeah.
Go ahead. It doesn't bother me. Yeah, no, that's really cool. And then, Facebook, why did you leave? Burnout? 14-hour days consistently, right?
Not consistently, but it was just when you work with really high performers and the kind of escalations that you have to deal with, the pressure is just insane. It is, sometimes you get like not emails, we never did emails, but like messages on Sundays, and you had to work on an escalation that Zuck had like talked about. And
like, because Facebook doesn't stop, right? Like, it's not like
it's not. And also 2020 was probably one of the worst years in human mankind in the recent times.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff happened in 2020. There were a lot of different movements, COVID, obviously, and the election also happened in 2020. And I worked in the department called Trust and Safety. So, any abuse that is like reported on the platform is like, that's what I worked on, like taking that out using machine learning models and different processes.
And when polarizing things happen, like, you look at the election plus COVID, like that's a massive, like those two things alone are quite polarizing to a lot of different population groups.
Yep.
I imagine the abuse like reports like just skyrocketed.
Yeah. So, and it's also a very reactive environment. Everything that you do is super reactive, and you have to do it fast because it has to get taken down before more people see it. And that just creates a lot of pressure. I struggled a lot. Like the first few months, I think it was mostly imposter syndrome. As I mentioned, I was sitting between two physicists, string theorists, basically, and I felt really dumb. And I kept feeling that I was in the wrong place. I don't know how I got hired and all of that. And once I got through all of that, it was just like you get bombarded with work, and it's like long hours and just very, very stressful. I burnt out pretty quick, and I was just like, I'm going to move halfway across the world.
I need a sea change to Australia.
I'm going to just cross all the oceans to get to Ireland where I want to live without ever seeing any of this.
Which I'm grateful that you did, because you came to Xenon and worked at Xenon and got into optimization. So I guess it's a good segue, 56 minutes in to start talking about what the podcast is about, right? But for us, it's what's interesting, and we're just selfish because we're interested in the topic, right? And we want to talk about it. So it's our podcast, so screw you guys. We're going to talk about what we want to talk about, and that's what we want to talk about. So we talked about the Zuck, talked about Facebook, where you've been, Stanford, America, through to Australia. You came into Xenon and you were, thrust into the role of the optimization head. And that must have been quite a learning curve, right? Because I imagine it's a lot of new things from being a project manager, like, similar theories in the way that you run things and do business, but quite different in the outcomes you need to achieve,
execution,
and what comes from it.
It's completely different to what I did before. I worked in core product and tech, and this was a completely new learning. Yes, it is still tech, but it was a huge learning curve. I'd never heard about conversion rate optimization before, and I got this role where I was supposed to do it and learn it in a few months and be impactful in a few months, which was a big challenge. But when I started reading more and more about it, it was just fascinating to me. I'd never in a million years thought that changing things on a website would make such big changes, or even doing small text changes would have such an impact on your funnel. I had to learn a lot about marketing because I never worked in marketing before. I was very, as I mentioned, product focused, and learning what a funnel was. I think that was one of my first lessons from James, my manager. And just learning all of the touch points. But conversion rate optimization blew my mind. The fact that you can change.
So we're gonna get in trouble if we don't do it. Can you tell us?
We did an episode on this.
Oh, you did?
A nutshell or a coconut shell, what conversion rate optimization is?
Conversion rate optimization is basically you looking at your marketing funnel and seeing what works for your audiences and making digital changes either on your website or on your onboarding flow to improve those experiences. The idea is to keep testing and to keep changing things to see what works and what doesn't work. you take the things that work and then you iterate on it even more. So things like even changing a button color can have an impact, believe it or not. Google, so the blue button that you see on Google has been, I think they did 41 tests of different shades of blue to be able to come to that blue. So they basically tested out 41 colors to say that this is the best blue that gives me the most conversion. And when I talk about conversion, it's basically, I'm guessing they're measuring clicks or like people who searched the bar. Searched and clicked on the bar. So yeah, so that's conversion rate optimization in a nutshell.
And with that being said, what works?
Great question.
You ran optimization for 12 companies, right? What works?
Yeah. So I ran CRO for 12 companies in our portfolio, and these are all B2B SaaS companies. So my research and the analysis and everything that I did is specifically for SaaS companies, SaaS software companies. We actually tested for, I think, a year and a half, and we created a playbook that I hope people still use across Xenon.
I use it all the time.
Sweet. Love that.
There's two.
So we realized, small things like having your call to action be the same color across your entire website. That's one big thing, which I don't think anyone across Xenon did. So you need to have your when I say your call to action button, it's probably your sign up. Hey, sign up here or try this for free. That button that you have on your website, if that's the same color, and it needs to be a contrast color, like it needs to stand out in your web page so that your eye is like drawn towards it. And it needs to be uniform, because what the brain does is it's like, oh, your button is this color. This is the one that I need to click. And as you go down the website, your brain sees that color again and again. It registers that, I need to click this button if I like this product. So that was one of the big things. I would never, if you asked me 4 years ago about any of this, I would have laughed in your face. But when you actually look at it and see the metrics and see how much that changes your conversions, it's insane. Just by making that one small change. We did a lot of layout tests. So for B2B SaaS companies, in my opinion, if you have a H1, and H1 is basically your the first thing that a person sees when you go into the website. So it's your first tagline. If you have an H1 on the left, and if you have a image that sort of explains your H1 or explains what your product does, or even a small GIF, that layout, we saw that basically made conversion. That created a lot of movement in the funnel, and you had higher rate of conversion than any other layout. But then again, it's not a blanket thing. You try different layouts. We saw that this worked for maybe 3 or 4 companies, but something different worked for another company. So you have to keep testing. You can have baseline guidance, but that's where you start from. But you have to learn more about your customers and what your product offers to be able to test and iterate. I'd like to describe this in 3 simple steps: discover, learn, and elevate. Discover who your customers are, what they're doing in your website. What are they doing? What are they most interested in? Install things like heat maps to see what they're looking at and what interests them. Learn from those discoveries.
I think another part of discovery is talk to people, right?
Yeah.
Too often you've got the tools like the heat map and things like that, but actually talking to your customers and successful conversions about what they're there for.
Yep.
And your peers.
And then once you learn what their behavior is like on the site, elevate it. What can you do to make them want to click this more? What can you do to get them to be more interested? What can you say that is going to resonate with them? So yeah, that's what we followed.
We did tests around an arrow to try and highlight something, right?
Yes.
Did that work?
It worked for 2 companies. It didn't work for Integrate. We basically had an arrow pointing to the H1, I believe, or the button.
The CTA, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was a CTA. And we tested with a small arrow and then a big arrow. I believe it worked for scripted. It increased our conversions by crazy amount. But we tested that for integrate.io, and it didn't really work. So half of this job is just learning how to fail.
Different audiences, right?
Yeah.
What I love
about
CRO is you just go out there, you find what someone else did and go, that sounds great. You test it, and then you just create a hypothesis and either disprove or prove it, right? And that's really all it is. And there's, what's that guy's name who does all the best practices stuff?
Jacob Lewinsky.
Yeah, Jacob Lewinsky, yeah. So he's got like an email list that he sends out.
Things that work for Amazon.
Like what's work for different companies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like you just take those and you just like, all right, cool, I'm going to test this month. And you test it and it's like, great, it worked. Or, oh, that didn't work. I guess we're no worse off. We're back to where we were. And let's test something else, right?
Yeah. And like conversion rate optimization is probably more, it's a little easier on e-commerce companies because it's the time to buy is instant. But for SaaS companies, you go into a trial.
There's a lot of variables, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of variables and you have to, it's a bit more nuanced and it takes longer. So you can't really apply things from e-commerce to SaaS, which is why this research and the data stuff that I did was specific to SaaS to see what works for us and what doesn't.
And one thing that I always say is that you have to have a way out. Always have a way to revert back to the normal. Too often you see people make permanent changes without having a way to revert back to what they had, and it's like, well, that didn't work, but we can't go backwards, so looks like we're just sticking with this for now.
We've permanently changed our H1 and dropped all of our traffic.
But there's so many tools, like that you can use to sort of help you make those temporary changes. So I use something called VWO. It's a tool that lets you A/B test. I tested out, I would think, about 6.
We've plugged VWO a few times.
I named that as the best tool for Xenon because I tested about 6 different tools and none of them really worked or gave us what we needed. VWO sort of covered, it had an easy workflow, was like easy to do and anyone could sort of use it. So VWO lets you test with different audiences. So if you are changing something, you can split your audiences to that test. So 50% of your audience goes to your original design and the 50% goes to your test. And you basically, and it measures whatever you've set as your goal. Is it like signups? Is it people clicking on it? People hovering on it, time on page, those things. And it tells you which one's doing better after a certain period of time. Again, this is all based on the number of website visitors you have and how fast you get to statistical significance. But it's easy to like do that on VW and then figure out what works and then sort of release that. So yeah,
it's free if you're under a certain amount of traffic, which is it's actually a pretty high cap.
VWO like
Teamgate's free. Need to grow that traffic. But the other point is, I believe UXPin just released a new homepage. So a very good example out there for those who want to jump on, have a look at the UXPin.
Did you test it?
Website. I'm having a look at it now.
We tested messaging.
Very pretty.
And we are testing it. Yes, we're looking at conversion rates every week to see if it's doing better or worse. We also, so UXPin is like released this website because we're pivoting to a more technical audience, like technical designers and developers. And we believe that this layout of the website speaks more to that audience. And this homepage has come about after months and months of testing on different messaging, talking to different people, seeing what resonates with our ICP, and finally coming to that website. And we're still testing it. We're going to change the H1 soon and see what that does. So
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Like one thing that I tested at Assembler was, LMS is hosted on OpenEdX. And I was like, I wonder what happens if we put the OpenEdX logo on the, above the fold next to the CTA. 300% increase in demos booked. And I think it's like 150% increase in clicks on Get Started, which is crazy, right?
No.
Something as simple as just like putting a bit of proofing there, like OpenEdX logo. People suddenly are like, oh, great, I'm going. Let me in.
We did a change to our onboarding process, and all we did was once someone signs up, we move them directly to the editor and change a couple of things on the editor, and we saw 112% increase in our PQLs. PQLs are qualified leads, so anyone who uses a tool a certain way is is a product qualified lead, and we saw 112% increase. That was the best graph that I've ever seen. When it goes up just like that makes me happy. That's the little joys that you get with this job. And it's just so interesting to see how like small changes can do that to your funnel.
Yeah, and I think that the biggest thing here is like just keep testing and just keep trying things, and your ICP, like something will react.
Yeah.
And you'll start to build a picture of what works for you and the people that you're targeting, because it changes. And I think that was probably one of the biggest learnings you had, right, was how much it changed from company to company.
Yeah.
You know, you do one thing and it's like, oh, this arrow worked for scripted. And it's like, great, let's put the arrow on for everyone.
And then
everyone gets an arrow, right? And then it's like, oh, this arrow actually sucks. So don't assume because something worked for someone else.
Yeah.
That's going to work for you is probably the big thing there. You need to just test for yourself and see what's going on. But
you need to.
What's your advice to someone? What's your advice to someone who wants to make immediate impact, you know, for conversion rates and trying to improve things?
Depending on who you're selling to, if you understand your audiences, the one thing I would say is just go do this button color change. Just go and make your CTA the same color across your website. It is much more powerful than you think it is, and always measure. Have a baseline.
Creatures of habits, right?
Yeah.
If we know that, like, we got to click the orange button,
click red
on every page.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah. So measure your baseline first, and then make that change and see how that changes for you. The other thing that I've also, like, a small thing that you can do is on your blog, you probably have a CTA that says, try our tool now. I've seen that most people put it at the end of the blog. What I realized that when people are reading your blog, if you just put it at certain intervals, maybe have 3 to 4, because blogs are long and it takes, not everyone reads the whole thing. So if you just have CTAs in the middle, there's a higher chance of conversion. So just put your blog CTAs that are definitely have contrast, and just do it across the blog instead of right at the end. Or people are also doing floating CTAs now. So maybe like on the left or the right of your blog, it sort of travels with you as you go down. So that's also a good sticky like CTA that you can keep that would get people to like click on that. So just 2 small changes. It doesn't take a lot of dev effort to change that. You can literally go and do this on VWO yourself, and you can test with different colors, different things. I believe in metrics driven design. Don't just put something on your website to make it pretty. Pretty doesn't work. You need to make it work. You need it to mean something.
No one cares how good it looks. If it doesn't convert people and get the end result that you're after, then what's the point of it?
Your website can be the most beautiful thing ever created by mankind, but if you're not getting leads, what is the point of that website? Yeah. So metrics driven.
And then the other side of that as well is another cool tool that I was recently reminded of, that I knew before, but reminded of this week, is Microsoft Clarity. So if you're happy with your data being fed into their AI model, then absolutely. But Microsoft Clarity allows you to have heat maps and things like that, and it's all free. It's free forever. So the price you pay is your data. But if you're happy with sharing your data with Microsoft, which most people are, you'd probably do it anyway without knowing.
Do it anyway, yeah.
But Microsoft Clarity allows you to get heat maps, recordings of people on your website, so you can really start to understand what people are doing on your website and how they're interacting with things. Yeah. But I think that we have stolen enough of your time, Sriya. We're over an hour now, and we asked you a whole heap about Facebook, which thank you so much for running through that. We talked a little bit about optimization. I think the key things here is, like, if you want a job at Facebook, go to Silicon Valley and just talk to someone at Facebook and get a referral link. The interview process sucks, but it's worthwhile at the end. Free food at Facebook.
Better than Google.
Is good for gains and better than Google. And for optimization, having your H1 on the left-hand side, an image that describes your product on the right-hand side is essential to getting those conversions. And testing is the biggest thing that you can do to make sure that you're heading in the right direction.
Always keep testing. Do at least 2 tests a month. It's not something that if I just change something and leave it there, it's not going to work forever. User behavior changes, user patterns change, and you have to adapt. So always keep testing. And
Sriya, if people want to continue the conversation or learn something about UX Pin, where can they find you?
Please reach out to me on LinkedIn or book a call with us on our website. We are also going to be in New York on the 8th through the 10th of October. We have a booth at the Smashing Mag conference. So please come and say hello if you're in New York.
Awesome. And then, Andrew, you're actually heading on the road.
You can see, you've got to see Shriya's guns. the biceps in person in New York. But yeah, I'll be.
I'll flex for you if you buy my
Come for the gun show.
I'll be in. Speaking of gun shows, I'll be in Texas in November. So I don't even know the dates, but there's 2 conferences, one in Dallas and one in Austin. It's between the 12th and 22nd of November. I think it's the 16th and the 20th.
Yeah, and I'm going to be in Wellington in October. Wellington, New South Wales, not Wellington, New Zealand. So if anyone wants to come and sell.
Where are you going? You're also visiting the Sunshine Coast, mate. You got to.
I am. I'm also visiting the Sunshine Coast. Yeah, like start of December. Mate. Start of December. For anyone who wants to meet a better person than Andrew, I'll be up there start of December. I'll be staying with Andrew.
If anyone wants to meet a better person, Abe's wife will be here. Abe's wife will be here. So if you want to meet a better person...
I love that. Georgie is really awesome. So...
We'll get her on the pod, mate. Yeah, she can take my seat for the day. So like and subscribe on all these socials, Beers and Business Pod, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Andrew's on there doing stuff. It's great. And YouTube. You can find us on LinkedIn, where you can listen to the podcast Tuesdays, 10 a.m. releases on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So get in there and listen to those. And submit any questions, topics, anything you'd like to know on any of the social platforms. Send us a message, comment, whatever it's going to be. But make sure you tune in for the next episode.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. This was fun.
Cheers.
Cheers. Skull that wine, Sriya.
I have to go and lift